Hello everybody and welcome to this interview here. This time I'm joined by none other than Kaeo Milker, the lead game producer here for Hero of the Storm. I'm really excited. Hey Kaeo, thanks for joining. How are you doing today?
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. It's another fun day here at Irvine. We're making cool stuff, so I can't complain about anything.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited to have you here because I'm sure that not only myself but the rest of the community will be very interested in some of the questions, hopefully at least, that I'm going to ask you. So to kick things off, eternal conflict is in everybody's or on everybody's mind at the moment, and we're super excited to have it like next week. And the newly announced Diablo heroes such as the Butcher, King Leoric, and the Monk, like they're the stuff that keeps people very excited. So I want to ask you, what requirements does new potential content have to fulfill before you put it into the game? Like what makes you as a team of developers say, let's put that into the game?
It's actually a pretty involved process. You know, we're really fortunate. We have this, especially on the hero side, right? We have this massive list of really compelling characters from 20 plus years of Blizzard games. And it literally is like there's this master spreadsheet that has the characters and the world that they're from, some potential roles that they would fill, things like, you know, if they're a humanoid or a creature, they're cute or funny or dark or serious, this massive thing, right? And we go look at that, it's kind of overwhelming because there's so much cool stuff in there. And there are only so many of them we get to bring in any given time period. But and we have so many people who are so passionate about both Blizzard games here and Heroes of the Storm that we could fight all day long about what the next thing is that should come into the game. But I think we have a pretty good system now where we're in a phase of the game where we're all playing this game so much and you know, we're hearing so much feedback from this massive growing community of people who are very passionate about it as well, that we're looking at trying to round out choices right now, right?
Yeah.
Like this game is really all about choices that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're getting to pick characters that if you've been involved in Blizzard games at all, you get to pick from these Blizzard worlds, and then you get to pick roles that you want to play, or roles you want to fulfill in the game, or things you want to round out on your team or your team composition. And then we have battlegrounds, which change the heroes that you want to play, because some of them have more utility or less utility battleground to battleground. And it's all just like, we want to give you guys this huge array of choices to make, and it includes skins and mounts and everything, right? And we want them to be compelling. We want you to feel like you come into Heroes and you've got something that can appeal to you. It appeals to you aesthetically. It appeals just to you as a player, and it gives you the gameplay and the kit that you want to play. So we're all about trying to round out those choices. And so our goals are to make on the hero front. We want to scratch the itch of like, we need to speak to all of our game worlds. We need to make sure, like right now, we don't have a Warcraft for Starcraft. I mean, a warrior for Starcraft. We don't have a support character for Starcraft. We didn't have a support character for Diablo until the Monk. So there's certain holes where it's like very clear, like we really need to get a support for Diablo in the game.
Yeah.
And that conversation of who that is a whole other thing. But you know, so we're trying to round it all out, right? We're trying to make sure that underrepresented worlds and classes and roles get representation in a reasonable time frame, so that we give you guys the best choices that we can. But this particular thing with going into Eternal Conflict, you know, we started with Johanna. She kind of came ahead of Eternal Conflict, but it was really like you know, bringing in a new warrior for Diablo. And I think people have agreed that she plays really different. She is a beast. I think we all can agree on that right now.
Yeah, one of my favorite warriors, absolutely.
Yeah, she's pretty crazy right now, and a ton of fun. But you know, going to the Butcher, he's an assassin, but he's this big giant guy, and I think we all have memories of him if we've played the Diablo games as this really scary guy. Like, I mean, he was just kind of like this stuff of nightmares, kind of, right? But bringing him into this game is this big hulking, but fragile too. Like he's got his pros and cons here, but he really fulfills the fantasy of this creepy guy, and it's a role too that we haven't really had in the game yet, right? We have some dark characters, but we don't have a guy that is just like this terror guy. Like he's freaky.
I totally agree, because even if you compare him to someone like Stitches, he's still funny, right? Stitches is still a comedy character, but Butcher is just pure badass and really mean and very scary.
Yeah, he just, and even like we have bad guys like Arthas, but I mean, Arthas is a bad guy in his own right. He does some horrible things, and he's a bad guy, but the Butcher's in this other realm of like horror character, right? So it's fun. And I think then looking at Leoric, there's a really different thing there. We have some death mechanics in the game for certain characters right now, but Leoric really embraces that at the extreme of like, he doesn't really die. He's still out there on the battlefield and he's coming back really fast and he's coming back where he was, right? So like, it's just like a really different experience, and it changes the way you interact with the game world, especially while you're dead. So there's some variety there. And again, we needed a Diablo support character, and the monk is a really cool twist on that. Like, if you think of the Diablo world, part of why we didn't have one previously is there's not really clear support roles in Diablo traditionally, right? Like,
that's true.
So we're kind of making taking a character that we feel like has some potential to be support oriented, but even if he wasn't traditionally so. There's a lot that goes into that whole process, a lot of passionate, heated debates about it all. But we basically are just excited as our players are to bring new stuff into the game like that.
Yeah, and you actually made a perfect transition, because my next question was going to be about the monk. And I have a question for you. I'm not sure if you can answer it, but let's just give it a try. So can you comment on him being a full support, like Uther or Malfurion, for example? Or is he going to be like a more aggressive support, like Tassadar or Tyrande? Also, can you comment on what resource he's going to be using? Like, is he going to have a new resource, like, say, a spirit? Or is he going to use mana? Or can you comment on his mechanics a little bit? What are his strengths, his weaknesses? Can you give us some impression there?
Well, I can't tell you too much about him. Pretty much what we said so far is all that I'm permitted to talk about, or I'll have to go home and pack up my stuff or something. Okay. We have talked about the fact that he has a trait that you get to choose.
Yeah.
So he's unique in that regard, that you basically decide his direction, even beginning with his trait right from level 1. So I think players will find that he offers some really cool utility in the fact that they get to dictate very dramatically how he's going to play. So unfortunately, I can't say too much more from that right now, but I think we'll have more information on him coming up very soon here, and I think people will be really excited about what we've done with him as a hero.
And I mean, the fact that you can choose his trait will probably give us some info about him being like, there's an offensive way to play him and a more defensive way to play him, right? Okay.
That side of it is real, yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, with Eternal Conflict, you guys are introducing a new quest, which is hunting a treasure goblin at the beginning of the game. And we're really excited about that too. So, are you planning on implementing other features as well, like, say, spectator mode, similar to Hearthstone, where you can just watch people from your friends list play, or watching replays together? Are you going to introduce new quests like that, like the treasure goblin one? What are you currently planning to do?
Sure. Let me start with the treasure goblin quest thing.
Sure.
So that's something new. We actually added an entirely new category of quest for this. So there's these things now called event quests, which come up in addition to your daily quests. So this is always going to be kind of a bonus thing. It's not going to take away from your normal experience. The treasure goblin is our first stab at this. We felt like it was a really fun, very Diablo way to kind of bring something fun and lighthearted in from the Diablo world. The current plan for it is it's going to span kind of the length of this Eternal Conflict event that we're doing. And so you'll see it there. And I think every day people can come in, they can do it, they get a little extra gold from it. Even if you've already completed the quest, you might see a treasure goblin spawn. You can help kill it so that the rest of the people on your team have an opportunity to get their quests completed as well. But we'll watch it, and I think because we now have this event quest, you can definitely look for us to explore other opportunities to do fun things like that maybe are a little out of the norm from what our other quests are. That would be cool opportunities to do something kind of cool that might have a bonus on it as well for you on the gold end. So I'm excited about that. We'll see how the treasure goblin goes. We're looking forward to everyone's feedback from it, and it's something too that we could potentially bring back or alternate through different versions of these types of quests. We could change it up, and so I'm excited because it's cool to have just a new outlet for that kind of thing in the game, and because the support's there, we can actually do it now. As far as the other features, you mentioned spectator mode. I think that's actually a really cool thing. I think we would love to get that into the game. It's something that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We have some limitations right now. It's the same thing, and I'm sure you're aware on the observers. We only have so many slots in the game right now for observers. So these are all things that collectively we need to work on to bring more support to our communities and to our casters, so that you have more options there. I don't have timelines for those things right now, but I can tell you we totally agree that these are great features and they're important things, and we're talking about them. And I think in time we will get them into the game. So we totally appreciate everyone's feedback on that. And if your audience has ideas on what would be cool ways to do that stuff, we love to hear it. We read our forums constantly. We look at sites like Reddit all the time. So if you put that information out there, we are there, we are absorbing it, and
Cool.
it's really important to us.
Awesome. All right. Then let's talk about, let's move on from Eternal Conflict to another game of the Blizzard universe, which is Starcraft 2. As you know, there will be Starcraft 2 Legacy of the Void coming later this year. And I was just interested in whether you were planning on doing some sort of cross-promotion and maybe even think about a Starcraft map. Is something like that on your schedule? Because Eternal Conflict is all about Diablo, Diablo Heroes, Diablo Quest. Are you planning on expanding that idea to other Blizzard franchises as well?
Definitely. So when we started this game, it was originally a custom map for StarCraft, and I think originally we were basically just bringing in some characters, and we had some worlds that it was originally set in that were just there was a chess piece, cyber world thing that we did, and some things that were just completely disconnected from our lore or anything. So when we started actually transitioning to make Heroes its own game, we kind of consciously decided early on that while we really wanted to visit the Blizzard worlds, we wanted to try to start in some neutral territory to kind of establish the game and set up the notion of how this worked without any kind of preconceived notions of what the rules were going to be. So we kind of intentionally went to these places like Blackheart's Bay and Dragonshire, these worlds where it's they're familiar because they're kind of fantasy settings where you kind of go, you could kind of see that's kind of Warcrafty, but it's not a place in Warcraft that I'm familiar with. So we did all that stuff, and I think we set the stage for the game, and then we totally knew we wanted to start diving into the IPs. We announced the Diablo themed map at BlizzCon last year, and our intention is definitely that we're going to go and visit all of the Blizzard IP universes here. I think we started with Diablo because our team has traditionally been very focused on StarCraft and Warcraft 3, and we worked on World of Warcraft as well, a lot of us. So the Diablo universe was this really cool, dark, different place that we could go to that was a really fun change of pace. And if we did Warcraft right now, again, since our current tile sets are kind of fantasy, they feel kind of Warcrafty. It wouldn't have been as much of a departure as going to heaven and hell in Diablo. It just feels man, this is different. This is a totally new space to get to explore. So all of our team has had a lot of fun with exploring the Diablo universe, especially because most of them have never worked directly on it before. So we get to bring in all of our love for Diablo and do our own interpretation of it in Heroes of the Storm. So that's been great. So StarCraft, absolutely on the list. Again, most of our team has directly worked on StarCraft 2 from the very beginning, from Wings of Liberty. So we care about that game immensely. I always say I named my daughter Kerrigan. This is the level of investment.
Did you?
This is the level of investment I have in StarCraft, right? I've put a significant portion of my life into the StarCraft world by working here and putting a lot of myself into it. So I would love to visit that world. Warcraft. People ask about Overwatch. That's definitely a possibility. Although I do want to confirm again that we want to let Overwatch have their time, and they need to come out, and players need to come in and absorb the Overwatch world for its own face value, not let us introduce our interpretation of it as their first experience. So we're definitely going to let Overwatch come out and establish themselves before we start bringing all their characters or worlds in. So, but that's so exciting. It's so great to have all of these amazing, rich worlds to bring into Heroes of the Storm. And I think as you guys will start seeing with Battlefield of Eternity and the Eternal Conflict, we have another map coming from Diablo after that, you'll start seeing how fun it is to kind of revisit and explore, especially for players who are familiar with these Blizzard worlds.
Sweet. Okay, so let's move on to another huge part of Heroes of the Storm, which is, of course, the ranked mode or the team and hero leagues. What are your plans for the future concerning ranked play? Because we've heard something about the Grandmaster tier that is going to be implemented soon. And Kaeo, can you tell us a little bit more about how that's going to work and what the rewards are going to be like? Can we expect rewards like unique skins or portraits or any other in-game stuff connected to the Grandmaster tier?
Yeah, we have a lot of things in the work. Alan DeBeery, our tech director, and he heads up our UI and online team. He was a big part of a big post that came up on Ranked Play that I think it was a blog post that went up on our site just a couple weeks ago here. So I think that outlines a lot of the stuff that we have in the works. Grandmaster League, we talked about from the very beginning as something we definitely want to do for Heroes. We definitely think that there's this tier above Ranked 1 where players are going to want to go. And again, we made StarCraft 2. It's equivalent of that where you know that the best of the best are the ones that are competing in that upper tier league there. we're working on that now. I don't have a timeline for it. It definitely is something that we are going to want to have rewards for. There are other ranked rewards that we want to have as well. I'm not going to go into details about what those are right now because I don't want to promise something and then not end up giving you exactly that. But we talk about this stuff constantly, and there are teams of people that are working on various aspects of it. So
Cool.
it's going to come, and we'll see improvements there. And like everything else in the game, even with what we start with, it can be in constant evolution. So it's also things that we will continue to expand upon as we get feedback and as we experience it ourselves. Although I don't know if I'm going to be in Grandmaster League, but I'll watch from afar.
Awesome. So let's take a little bit to the competitive aspect of Hero of the Storm. The road to BlizzCon has a massive prize pool. I think it's over $1 million total, and there are many teams competing all over the globe at the moment. So what is your opinion on the current esports scene that we have in Hero of the Storm? Are you, for example, surprised of how some of the teams play the game? Would you have expected anything like that?
I think we're constantly surprised by the way people play our games. It's a weird thing, especially this game. We took it home and we've been playing it internally from home for almost 2 years, and we started with a small group of just developers, and then we brought in all of Blizzard, and then we went to Tech Alpha, and we started slowly bringing the public in with us. So it's been this really long journey, but across that entire span of things, the way just the average player gets in and plays it surprises us. The way the people at the pro level play constantly surprises us. At the end of the day, we're trying to do something that we think is fun and provide a bunch of tools, and we have some ideas of how we think the players are going to use those things, but we're constantly being surprised by that. I think it's kind of amazing how much when we live and breathe these things, we think we know exactly how it will play out, and it basically never goes that way. People do just amazing, cool things with our games. So I like watching that whole process. I'm really excited. This is just the beginning of the esports scene for Heroes.
Yes.
We did Heroes of the Dorm earlier this year, which I think was a really cool way of taking of this more up-and-coming amateur scene of a lot of players from colleges all around North America, bring them together. I think some fantastic games came out of that. Some really interesting play came out of it. We saw heroes that come and go in terms of top tier play that you hadn't really necessarily seen in the meta that dramatically at that point. So I think every weekend, every time we have one of these matches, I think new things come out of it, and the players who are paying attention to that take away a lot of insights on how they're going to go and reinvent the way to play the game week over week. So it's all super exciting.
Awesome. So one more question about esports. Do you guys at Blizzard have any plans on a regular format such as Starcraft's WCS for Heroes of the Storm as well in the near future or in the late future?
Yeah, so all we've announced so far is this Road to BlizzCon plan that consists of these regional tournaments that lead up to regional semifinals that eventually drive to get the players at BlizzCon. So we have our dedicated esports team that works really hard on this entire system. And I know that this year, especially because we're just launching, this is the year that kind of is really just setting the groundwork for all of that. And I would expect that as we move through this year, we're going to learn a lot together. We're going to make some decisions on what a more fully fleshed out version of this might look like next year and beyond. So I think we're all going to be watching this together and kind of taking away what's awesome about it and what are the things we should improve, and that will dictate what the next steps are for something that would be more of the WCS equivalent. But this year, it's all about Road to BlizzCon.
Okay, cool. So I think we are approaching the end of the interview, so I would like to ask some short questions, and it would be great if you could provide just a short answer, be precise as possible without telling, of course, anything you are not supposed to tell us.
I'll try. That's all very difficult for me, but I'll try.
So a few players are concerned with the current reconnect system. Are you planning on improving that, changing that somehow? Just say something about the reconnect system.
So we hear you. It's a system that we've made improvements on so far, but it only impacts people who only disconnect very briefly. We recognize if you disconnect longer, your time coming back in the game can be so long that you never get back in. We totally recognize that. We do have another version of it that we would like to roll out. I don't have a timeline, but I hear you and I understand the pain, and we would like to address it.
Awesome. Some players are still experiencing a little bit of a performance issue with the game, like it's not running as it should be, or they don't have as many FPS as they would like to have. Are you working on increasing the performance even further? Because we have seen a lot of improvement ever since the last two patches.
Yeah, so performance optimizations are something that we're constantly working on. Our engine team, our tech artists, there's groups of people that just work on this nonstop. There are certain things that are largely, when people report performance right now, there are certain compatibility things, certain combinations of video cards, certain combinations, some SLI support, things like that that we're gathering information on. That some of it is out of our hands, some of it is in our hands, but I urge people who have those type of things to please go to our forums. They can go to our tech support forums. The people there will solicit certain information from them that really helps us on this journey. But we are paying attention to it. The more information we have from players, the better equipped we are to help deal with that. But it's an ongoing process that will continue to get better for sure.
Awesome. So 2 more to go. I'm watching a lot of replays because I do this Epic Plays of the Week thing where people send me their favorite replays and so on and so forth. And sometimes I have to skip very far into the game and fast forward a lot. And that actually takes a lot of time. Are you planning on improving the way replays work at the moment?
Yeah, so that time that you're waiting on is the simulation time for us to actually go to the point in time that is. That same simulation time is what largely impacts the amount of time it takes someone to reconnect. So I think those things will be kind of intrinsically linked, and improvements that we make on one will benefit the other. So I think you can expect us to explore ways to hopefully make that go faster as well.
Okay, and last but not least, what about a pause function in-game? Like not only in custom games, but say in Hero League games or quick matches?
Yeah, we've talked about that, and clearly we have that in like Starcraft now, right? And the way it works is that the other player just unpauses you right away, and oftentimes that's exactly what happens in a game. The other player just go unpause, and you'll go pause, unpause, and then you'll run out of pauses. I think we have it in custom games. We added that support just ahead of Heroes of the Dorm, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think we'll keep looking at what the right thing is to do with that. I think it would be really hard to maintain a paused game in a 5v5 game that wasn't organized. I think you would. The situation from StarCraft where someone just wants to unpause it would be even worse because there's 9 other people to want to unpause it instead of 1. But it's something I think I'm open to exploring. We can talk about it. We always fear that we do something that benefits like that one certain situation, and then it doesn't ever get us that because players have a way to interact with it that basically negates the whole thing. So we'll consider that.
Gotcha. It could be something for Team League, right? Where there are 5 teams organized, and they should be able to show some manners and respect the other's team.
I could definitely see it. Knowing people, I wouldn't count on them doing the right thing always, but it's certainly that probably is a more reasonable option for it, and that's certainly something that we can explore.
Awesome. So that's it for this interview. Thank you very much, Kaeo, for doing this, for taking your time. I know you're a busy man, and you had a lot of interviews before this one, actually, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and keep up with the awesome work. I'm excited. Like I said, I watch the Epic Plays very religiously, so I'm looking forward to seeing more.
That's like getting knighted by the Blizzard overlords, right?
Cool, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.